Hey guys, I'm Wendy Ivy Martinez. I'm a geek, and today we are doing my June reading wrap-up. Yeah! During the month of June, I read a total of 16 books. Yes, I'm proud of myself for that. Mainly why I read so many books is because I didn't really read too much other than June. So I had a lot of catching up to do. So hence why I read 16 books. I mean, I'm still doing pretty good. It's barely the beginning of July and I've read quite a few books, if I don't say so myself. So I think I'm gonna keep this streak going. Let's go ahead and get on to the books that I read during June and my ratings and the reviews and all that fun stuff. Yeah, let's go. I was in the mood for poetry and it gets me in like these it gets me into my feelings, okay? And it just makes me feel beautiful and it makes me feel things and feel them deeply. And I read All Along You Were Blooming, Thoughts for Boundless Living by Morgan Harper Nichols. This was a nominee for Best Poetry in 2020 for the Goodreads Choice Award. Yeah, I don't know how I got that. For some reason, I didn't like it. I could not get into it. I didn't enjoy it as much as I wish I had, especially for it having a 4.2 star rating on Goodreads. I thought I would have enjoyed it a lot more. I rated it 2 stars. It wasn't memorable for me. It didn't make me feel the things that I wanted to feel. I don't know. So it didn't do it for me. The next books that I read was the Dirty Billionaire trilogy by Megan March. So I read all 3 of them. I read Dirty Billionaire, Dirty Pleasures, and Dirty Together. The first book was a 3-star for me. It is about a woman who wants to be a country singer and she basically gets this deal, but in order for her to get her deal, she has to pretend that she's married to this guy who's actually secretly, I think he's gay or like bisexual, something like that. And she constantly gets a bad reputation just because he constantly gets caught cheating, so she just looks like this really sad person. And she ends up meeting a billionaire at a bar and he ends up really enjoying their night together. So he puts a post out that everybody sees and they're like, oh, who's this mystery woman that he's searching for? And he's like, I want to marry you on the spot. And she ends up taking the deal with the billionaire, and then it's their love story. The first book was 3 out of 5 stars. And then the other 2 books were like 2 or 1 stars. I think it was like a 2-star and a 1 to 2 stars. I don't know, 1.5 stars. I hated them, okay? I did not care for the romance. I didn't care for our main characters. The main character was really annoying. She just acted like a spoiled brat. The main love interest, our love interest was also really boring. She was just like a whiny child. She was a whiny, spoiled child. And then the main guy, he seemed like he wanted to take a stand and it seemed like he was like, yes, I am the one in charge. When really, he wasn't the one in charge. He was just giving, it was like basically a parent giving into a little kid with a temper tantrum. That's how it felt, the whole series. I didn't like it at all. The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is a book that my daughter picked for me for my June TBR. And this is a YA, so I'm not too much of a YA person. And yeah, so this book basically is about a main character. Her name's Avery. Her name's Avery, and she basically has no money. She has nothing. She's very poor, and she lives with her sister. And she ends up getting sent to the office, and apparently she inherits a lot of money from some random billionaire that she didn't even know. So she gets her money, but they tell her that she has to live in the mansion with the Hawthorne brothers, which are like the boys, and the rest of the family, in order for her to get her money. So they find this billionaire's will, and apparently there is a whole bunch of secrets to the will, and Avery is just as curious as the Hawthorne brothers because apparently the grandpa that passed away. He liked to play a lot of games, and so that's just them basically trying to put together all these secrets that the grandpa's final game that he had in his will was. Yeah. Point is, they made it seem like in order for Avery to get the money, she had to play a game. That's what I took it as. But it was not that at all. So I was completely taken aback when that wasn't the story. That wasn't the case, like, at all. The next 3-star read is called The Weirdies by Kate Winslet. This was a Audible original that I got for free on Audible, and I was organizing my bookshelf. So I had just finished Love on the Brain by Hazelwood, which I'm going to talk about as well. But this book was just something so that I could finish organizing my bookshelf, and I wanted to be finished with yet another book, but I didn't want to start a whole 10-hour book. And this was a quick read. It was cute. It's about these weird, strange little orphans, and this teacher, or their teacher from the orphanage, she ends up really liking them even though they're very strange. It reminds me very like Edgar and Ellen and like the Addams Family, but put in like an orphanage. It's kind of like that. Overall, it was cute. I liked it. Kate Winslet narrated it, so I rated it 3 out of 5 stars, just because it is a children's book, and it's not, children's book aren't my cup of tea, but I did enjoy it enough to at least rate it 3 stars. Yay! Now we are moving on to my 4-star reads. So 4 by 4-star reads. So We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. It basically is about a woman. So Naomi leaves the altar, that is not a spoiler, and she finds herself in this town of Knockemout, and she is there because she once again wants to save her twin sister, and she's going to rescue her twin sister. And it turns out that her twin sister is still a complete dirtbag, and she ends up stealing her car and pretty much everything else, and dumps her niece that she didn't even know existed on her, and just leaves. And now Naomi has no money and no access to the outside world, so she decides to hunker down temporarily and try to get some money and, get not situated, but sort of get her shiznit together before she goes back and handles her problems. And obviously she has this new niece that she's raising that she didn't even know existed, so trying to build that bond and figuring out what's going on with her sister. And then she meets this guy named Knox, and Knox is this grumpy guy that still helps her. And of course, her twin sister has a bad reputation, so everybody thinks that she's her twin sister initially, and they get their faces mixed up, and nobody likes the twin sister, and they assume that she's her. Point is, this book was good. This book was almost 600 pages though. So I would have rated it, it probably would have been a 5-star had it not been for it being 500 pages long. I rated it 4 stars out of 5, which isn't bad. I didn't like the love story. I didn't like Knox. The grumpy sunshine dynamic didn't work for me, and there were so many things that Lucy Score tried to do so that you would like Knox, and for some reason, he still didn't grow on me. I couldn't care less about their love story. What did it for me, honestly, was the dynamic between Whaley, the niece, and Naomi, and their relationship and how she handled everything and how it ended. All of that, that's what gave it 4 stars for me. It had nothing to do with the romance, and I think it's considered a romance book. I couldn't give 2 darn cahootins about the love story, but I did love this whole aspect of her having to take care of her niece that she didn't know existed. All of that I loved. That drama did it for me. Did I think it needed to be 600 pages? No, I honestly think she could have wrapped this up beautifully in 300 pages or less. But I guess to each their own. So that's Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. The next book that I read in June was Delilah Green Doesn't Care. This book I really enjoyed. To be honest, this is a book that I have been reading since 2022. Yeah, I know. But the fact that I've been reading it since 2022 and I finished it this year, 2023, and I still remembered pretty much everything that happened up until that point where I picked it up again, that to me just means that it's a good book. Because if I still remember it that much, if it's that memorable to me, obviously the author's doing something right. So this is basically about a girl named Delilah Green, and she is a photographer, and she wants nothing to do with her family because she's like the black sheep. She feels like her family is very like stuck up, but yet her rich stepmom hires her for her sister's wedding as her photographer, and she gives her a whole bunch of money that she just cannot refuse. So she ends up going back to her hometown, and she ends up seeing her crush from high school named Claire, and we have dual POV. We have Claire's point of view, and then we have Delilah's point of view. Kind of like the grumpy sunshine dynamic as well. This book was just everything for me. This book was cute, it was fluffy, it had the right amount of spice. The dynamic between Delilah and Claire, not to mention Delilah is probably somebody that I would personally date, and I cannot blame Claire for falling in love with someone like Delilah. This book just had everything for me. I loved it. I loved it. I loved Delilah. I loved Claire. Didn't like Astrid, which is her sister. But I loved this book, okay? I loved this book. I really enjoyed it. I ended up rating it 4 out of 5 stars. I just thought it was a really cute, fluffy romance. I really enjoyed it. Overall, I just really enjoyed it. The next book that I read are Pillow Thoughts by Corny Peppernill. This one is, again, another poetry collection. I was really in the mood for poetry, okay, because my fiance was gone and I was yearning for some poetry. I needed to feel the feels. I needed to be with my feelings, okay? So, I really liked this one. This is one that really did it for me. This is one that made me feel hurt and heartbroken and took me back to all these memories and flashbacks of all these different feelings that I had, and it had me feeling whole again and beautiful. This is another one that I ended up rating 4 out of 5 stars. Really loved it just because it takes you all through the course of love. And I like how a lot of poetry books do that. It takes you from when you first fall in love to a breakup to feeling whole again, being yourself. I feel like a lot of poetry collections do that, and this one did that in the right way. So I really liked this one. Next 2 books are adult mangas, and it's called I Will Never Be Your Crown Princess by Saki Tsukigami. This is my very first adult manga series, and I do not know why I waited so long to read adult manga. Manga. I love Junji Ito. I love manga, so I know I love manga. I mainly just read horror manga, so when I found this one and somebody was talking about it on Booktok, I was like, all right, I'll check it out. Loved it. I rated them 4 out of 5 stars. Very quick, easy reads. Very super, super spicy, and obviously they're manga, so they're illustrated. So that's there. It's basically about our main character who remembers being reincarnated, and in her previous life she was a traditional Japanese woman, but in this new life she is the daughter of some high-class society person. I forgot what he was. And she becomes engaged to the crowned prince, and everybody knows that the royal family practices polygamy, which is something that she doesn't believe in. So she wants everything in her power to not have to marry this man. And everybody knows that royalty has to marry a virgin. So she basically goes out of her way and goes to this masquerade to make sure that she loses her virginity so she does not have to marry this man who practices polygamy, because she wants somebody that's faithful to her. And there's twists and turns, and it's a really cute series. The reason why I've only read both volumes is because only the 2 volumes are out, but as they come out, I very much would love to continue the series. So that was volume 1 and volume 2. Next book that I read was I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. This is also another audio book that I listened to via audio. This one I gave 4 out of 5 stars, and this is Jeanette McCurdy's life, basically. And we see her as she struggles with her mom, who was just horrible, who basically taught her how to have an eating disorder at a very young age, and just the toxic relationship that she had with her mother, her horrible time with Nickelodeon. She even talks about the producer and all of that stuff, and it was a really good read. I loved the audio version because Jeanette McCurdy narrates it. You can hear the pain in her voice, and it was just a really good read. I really enjoyed it. I have Two Scoops of Hellfire by Kimberly Lemming. And this is a short story on Kindle that I got on Kindle it's like 30 pages long. And it is basically about this girl who, it's during the whole, you know, pandemonium days, you know, the thing that happened in 2020 during those days, and she learns how to bake because she's gonna go insane if she doesn't do anything with her time, because she has too much time on her hands, and she accidentally summons a demon. And it's obviously she's very lonely, and the demon is very attractive, and yeah, it's just a very short like erotica story placed during the 2020 pandemonium, you know what I mean by that, sort of days. And it was a quick read. It was cute. It wasn't cute, it was hot, I should say. It was hot, and I enjoyed it. Now we are moving on to my 5-star reads. My first 5-star read is Love on the Brain by Hazelwood. This is basically about a girl who is in STEM, and she wants to do something with her life, okay? She wants to do something with her life, and she ends up getting a job at NASA developing these like space helmets, and she is constantly having this clash throughout her university years with this guy. And when she goes to work for NASA, who is her partner? None other than the guy that absolutely hates her. And it is their romance, and it's so cute. It's just so cute. This one, I have to be honest with you, the grumpy sunshine dynamic, the enemies to lovers, Ali Hazelwood has such an amazing way of writing the finale, the ending. This book is just so beautiful. Plus the way that she wrote our main love interest she writes him as a man that's like just seems very attractive to me, okay? So I like him. I loved our main character so much. So I ended up rating this one a 5 out of 5 stars. To be honest, I think I actually enjoyed this one even more than The Love Hypothesis. Okay, my next 5-star read is That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon by Kimberly Lemming. This book was so amazing. Okay, I loved this. This was such a fun time. I purchased this one on Kindle, and this is probably the main character, our main protagonist, our main character in this book is my second favorite main character of all time. This book is about a girl named Cinnamon, and all Cinnamon wants to do is enjoy life, okay? She wants to drink, and she wants to run her little spice farm with her family, and that's all she wants to do, and have fun, okay? That's all she wants. She doesn't want to go on adventures. Ever since she lost her sister, she has no feelings. She wants to go on no adventures. And in this town, every 15 years, this goddess picks a savior to save their town from demons running their town and killing and slaughtering and unaliving all the humans in their town. And their family has no interest in being a savior, even though they're celebrated up until, you know, they never return. Her family has no interest in that. Okay, so one night she's coming home and she ends up saving a guy. Turns out this guy is a demon. She runs through her cinnamon farm, hits him in the face with a cinnamon stick, and runs inside her parents' home. Next day, who knocks on her door? None other than the demon. And he's like, hey, just to let you know, first of all, I'm sorry but that goddess that you call a goddess is not really a goddess. She's actually just a witch, and she's the one controlling us in the first place, which is why we're attacking you guys. So I need your help to destroy her, because only humans can go through her shield. And what was that you threw in my face, because that knocked me out of my curse from her. And she basically, and then Cinnamon has no choice but to go on this adventure. And it was amazing. Okay, first of all, Cinnamon, our main character, is hilarious. This book is laugh out loud funny. Cinnamon is the funniest character ever. I feel like if her and my #1 favorite main character of all time, Selena, or Aelin from Throne of Glass, if they became friends, I feel like they would be the best of friends, okay? First of all. Second of all, this book was so fun. This book was so fun. Even though it was a fast read, I think it was only like 200 pages. This book was so hilarious. Our love interest is amazing. I absolutely loved him. Fallon, our demon, think of him like Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy. So picture Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy, but falling in love with a human. That's him. So he takes himself way too seriously. He thinks that he's being serious, and when really the stuff that's coming out of his mouth is downright hilarious, because he doesn't really know too much about humanly things. And this book was just so good. I loved this book. So that was another 5 out of 5 star for me. And the last 5-star read, and my #1 book of 2023 so far this year, this has been my favorite read this year. It is The Wishing Game by Meg Schaffer. This book, I loved this book, okay? I loved this book so much. This was a book of the month pick for the June book of the month box. So if you have book of the month and you haven't got this, I highly recommend it. This is basically about a really famous author who wrote a lot of children's books, and he all of a sudden just stops writing. And our main character is a teacher's aide, and she teaches specifically one little boy who she's really close to, and she shows this little boy these books. These books help this little boy really get out of his head, because he's going through a lot, and she really wants to adopt this boy, but she doesn't have the money for it, so it doesn't look like it's happening for them in their future. And then all of a sudden, this author announces that he's going to host a competition for the very last book that he'll be writing, and whoever wins this competition wins the book and the right to the book. So basically, whoever wins gets to do whatever they want to the book, and if they want to get it published, they can. And so she gets an invitation from the author to join this game to see if she can win the book. And this book was just a really, really fun time. This book has a lot of magical elements to it. It was basically like reconnecting with your inner child. I remember when I got close to the end and I read this little phrase, which is right before the last chapter, I burst into tears with happiness and joy, just because it was such a beautiful read. Every single line in this book is just written so beautifully. The author that we meet on this island, Clock Island, is such a fun person. He just seems imagine Charlie and the Chocolate Factory characters going back to the chocolate factory as adults and meeting Willy Wonka again. That's basically the feels of this book, and it's just it was a really beautiful read, and I found myself crying, and this is the only book that has made me cry in a very long time, since 2021 or 2020. I think that was the last time a book made me cry, just because it was so darn beautiful and I loved it. So pick up The Wishing Game if you haven't. This is my favorite. This has so far been my favorite book of 2023. Anyways, you guys, that is it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell. I also have a podcast called The Geek Goddess Podcast, where we talk all about books that you can subscribe to if you want to, or follow, subscribe, whatever. I will list that down below. I also have a Booktok, which I will list down below as well. And if you guys would love to send me a book from my Amazon wish list, I do have that listed down below as well. Anyways, you guys, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please let me know what your favorite reads of 2023 have been so far, and also what you read in June and your favorite book of June as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. Once again, I am Wendy Ivy Martinez, and I'm a geek. I'll see you in a future video. Bye!